Hi, my name is Rick Bloodworth. Today is day 12 of the 90-day study through the New Testament. The chapters today are Mark chapter 6 through Mark chapter 8. And just to kind of set up the lesson for today, I wanted to go back to an event that occurred, probably about 23 years ago now. It involved our 5th grade son. We had been in Casper, Wyoming for a number of years, and they were having a basketball league that year through the school. And I told my wife if they asked me to coach, I would coach, but I didn't really want to volunteer. So she took it upon herself and went to the office and told them that I'd coach if they'd ask me, so they asked me. Well, I went out the first day. I was the only parent there, and there was something along the lines of about 28 young men, if I recall correctly. No assistant coaches, just 28 men. So I had to separate them into 4 teams, and it took a little bit of time to do that, and yet I didn't have a lot of time before the season began, so I really couldn't look at each one of them individually that closely anyway. There was one young man that I really remember because he was always in trouble. He always had what we'd call a big mouth maybe, and always had something to say. And so instead of practicing with the rest of them, he ran a lot of the time because he was always just kind of getting into trouble. Well, when it came time to split the teams up, I wasn't really sure where to put that young man because I really hadn't seen him play much. And so I put him on the C team. Well, he was not happy with that at all. Went home, told his dad, I'm quitting basketball. That guy didn't know what he's doing, which he's probably right. But anyway, his dad called me up and asked what was going on, so I just told him. I said I'm assuming he's probably a good player, but I really haven't had a good chance to look at him because he's always running his mouth, and when he runs his mouth, he has to run. And so his dad said, well, we'll take care of that. So anyway, his son came back the next day, and he did play on the C League, and he was a good player. As a matter of fact, he was one of the best players I had. Certainly in the C League, he was probably the cream of the crop. Well, as it turned out, they ended up not only winning the regular season, but they won the tournament as well. And I can remember getting a chance to talk to that young man after the season was over, and I just told him, I'm glad you stuck with it. But I said, it's really important for you, no matter who your coach is in the future, for you to make sure that you look him in the eye when he's talking and that you don't run your mouth and get yourself in trouble, so he can see how good you are. Well, I think he took that very well. I'm not sure exactly how he did in future years. I suspect he did very well. We moved away the very next year, and so I never got to see him play anymore. But the point is that he needed something extra. He needed a second touch, if you will, instead of just cutting him from the team and letting him go, and instead of his father just letting him quit when he was frustrated, gave him a second chance, a second effort, and encouraged a second effort. Turned out really good for him, and it turned out really good for the team as well. Well, it's this very type of thought I want to call your attention to in today's study. It involves a passage in Mark chapter 8 in verse 22, and it involves a man who was blind. We're told that Jesus and the apostles went to a town called Bethsaida, and a blind man's friends brought him to Jesus. And so Jesus took him outside the village, and it says that he spit on his eyes and he touched him. And he asked the blind man, what can you see? And the blind man said, well, I see people, but it's like trees walking around. Now, I don't know if the man had eyesight prior to that time and had lost it, or if it was just what he imagined trees would look like. But the point is, it was very clear that the miracle didn't take the first time, that it only partially worked. And so Jesus touched his eyes again, and the man could see fully. Now, let me ask you this. Why the second touch? Do you think that Jesus didn't have enough power the first time? Well, we had just seen Jesus feeding 5,000 people miraculously just a little bit before that, and also 4,000 people on another occasion he fed miraculously. We talked yesterday about the healing that he did, not only for the woman that had been bound with a disease for 12 years, he also drove out a multiple group of demons from a man called Legion, and then he actually healed a young woman, a 12-year-old girl, girl raised her from the dead. So there's not any question that Jesus had the power to heal this man the first time. So why the second touch, do you think? Well, I don't know exactly why, we're not told, but I wonder if it wasn't something along these lines. I wonder if it wasn't for us as much as it was for him. See, maybe he had to have his faith built up, and with the first touch, and he started to see again, his faith started to increase, and so the second touch worked. Maybe it was just so that we could see that not everybody is going to successfully come to Jesus the first time. There's going to be a lot of times you'll invite somebody to come to worship with you or to a Bible study, or maybe you yourself have made several passes at this religion thing and just haven't been very successful. And yet as you look at your life, or as you look at the lives of those who are struggling, you realize they need something more. And of course, the more we look at it, the more we realize we need Jesus. And so sometimes we need a second touch. Some of us need a third or a fourth or 100th if you're like me. But the point is, if we don't give up, if we just keep coming back to Christ and keep our best effort, and even though we slip and we fall, we keep coming back, Jesus is always willing to give us another chance, a second touch, if you will. Maybe that's what you're doing right now. Maybe you've been searching in a lot of different places for a lot of years, and now you're starting to study, maybe for the first time in your life, where you're sitting down and opening the Bible and you're looking for yourself at what the Bible has to say about important things like salvation and grace and joy and peace. Maybe this is your second touch. Well, are you going to see it through this time? Because if you will, I think you'll find that the second touch will work. And I know that you're going to find that the joy that you have as a result of coming to Christ and sticking with it will be well beyond anything you could have imagined. Well, that's the study for today. Hope you enjoy your study within the Scriptures today. I pray that God will richly bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow.